I'm going to move up just so you don't have to talk anymore.
You had questions for me earlier, so I'll start there. I grew up in Oklahoma City. Started painting when I was about 5 years old. My parents had enough foresight to give me a professional oil painting teacher when I was a child. They were very good at painting cats and horses and oceanscapes and all those things, but just continued to grow in it. Oklahoma gave me an great arts background. Growing up in Oklahoma City at that time, we didn't even have an arts museum. There wasn't a lot of resources. But I'm amazed at what the state did for me in nurturing my education. So I owe so much to my family for that and for seeing that. And then just the stuff that came through was just amazing. So I'd be here anytime I'm asked to come back home and have an exhibit. I left when I was 17, or just turned 18, and went to Otis Parsons Art Institute in Los Angeles. Studied there, and at their school in Parsons in Paris. And lived all over the country, but primarily in Southern California. I typically do oil paintings, large scale. You'll see kind of a progression. These are earlier works, that the more recent works are over in that section of the gallery. I've generally always been a storyteller, and I like to tell relatable stories about things that happen to people. I like to find beauty in tragedy. I like to show like the other side, like show hope in situations, but I always want them to be relatable to anybody. So every painting has a narrative, universal and sometimes very personal. I like to abstract the background. I call it dividing the plane. My father was an engineer. He didn't understand, an engineer and a military man. He didn't really understand a fine artist, but he did his best to try to understand. But he'd always tell me, like, you need to draft. You need to draft more. So for me, I kind of, when I started like doing the drawings and figures, I started to draft and divide the background. I refer to it as dividing the plane. It's been compared to cubism and other forms of work. I do it to kind of show the complexity or the confusion and the energy of the situation surrounding the work. Sometimes it's geometric. Currently in those works it becomes geometric, but also the figures start to divide upon each other. In this I use people and energy and just trying to show the past. So that dissecting is more an abstract of human energy. The work always has people in it. There's always figures. They're becoming less and less recognizable. But in the more recent works, you can really look, and you can typically find 4 to 20 people within each painting, and they start to just fragment and dissect themselves and abstract. I try to still put something in it so that people see a human in it. That's why there's so many hands that actually come out, and sometimes they're very realistic, and sometimes they're very ambiguous. I find that helps people have something to relate to. I like the hands to kind of grab you. All the paintings, all the work I do, it's called Beyond Shadows. There's always a shadow tied to the works, the more realistic figurative works and the works on that side of the room. I use the shadow. I believe that it ties, it makes it real, it makes it relatable. I mean, something really probably did happen, even when something's really illogical or untangible. I believe that the shadow actually makes it, it's like a thumbprint. It means it really did happen. It ties you, it grounds you to a real situation and time. Now you know.
I love that. I love what
me.
you said about the breaking up the plane to show the energy and confusion, but you do it with such a soothing palette that it's fantastic. Instead of, I mean, it brings the energy without bringing aggression.
Right.
Really. And it's great. I love this, how you put that.
The rendering of your figures, calls to my mind these from like the social realism and the Soviet Union, when they had all these. Is that
Very superhero?
Yeah,
I'd rather have a
is
superhero.
that-
And they're typically women. There's a few gentlemen, 3 heads spinning on the other side. There's a few gentlemen. They typically are women. I like to focus on women's global women's issues or just society from my perspective as a female. I do paint women as being very strong and physical.
You said there was a narrative, I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you.
Yeah.
But could you tell us that in the newsletter?
I will. So this piece is called "Oh Thus She Stood." It's about the constant rise and fall of this figure. I say it was painted for everyone in the world who's ever been smushed down on the belly and made a choice to stand back up again. And this is one figure, one person in the process of standing, falling, standing, falling. I do it as a reference to peace, to women's issues, where there's just a constant struggle. It's never static. But the process is always the choice to push and stand back up again. I mask the faces. I make them white, just to make them anonymous. To make them so you're not looking at someone like, do I know that person, or that looks like. I just wanted to make them universal. This work, fait accompli. Fait accompli basically means the deed was done before it started. It was finished. So the destiny was already written before the deed was actually done. And for me, it was a thought about, I don't want to be, it takes so many people to raise a human being or to raise a child. And this is basically a picture of a woman surrendering. I was adopted. I had both my adopted mom here and my birth mother. So it was about the transaction and the heaviness and the strength that it took both of the figures to make that. I believe that it takes a village to raise a child. I know it's such an overused phrase.
But it'll be all right in this room.
Okay. So it truly takes everybody to work together to lift up a life or a community or anything. This painting is called Margins 0.5. For me, it's a portrait of motherhood. I have 2 children, and when I first stepped back as a mother, I thought women are marginalized in society. Anyways, but when you're a mother, all of a sudden you have no other identity. You're a woman with...
The lady in red is my daughter, and she's pregnant. So I wanted to paint about that, and then the question kind of became like, there's so many women that are marginalized, so I really use the red margins, like truly like a margin on a page. And this woman, like, she's my heroine. She is big and strong. She is leaping backwards. She's not accepting the role and the limits of the margins that she's been placed in. These are little shadows of the little hands, and sometimes I wonder if they're pulling her down or if she's pulling them up. And then of course this is her own shadow here. Here I can break up the plane to divide it to represent all of the other women and men and everyone who's ever been in that situation before. So it's more of a energy or spiritual background.
I have a question about that. So was that thing about women and marginalizing being defined as a mother? Something I've been thinking about a lot as an artist myself, like how I've had a lot of other even women, talk about, oh, well, you can't have children.
You can't be an artist.
Take your career seriously. Was that something you were thinking about when you were working
Absolutely.
on
I'm
this?
still every day confronted with it. Honestly, I was trying to explain that to my family that, we know there's like such a gender difference in art that's art, the world of art and women artists, and women artists, there's far more of them than male artists, but we're so underrepresented. But we're told from the beginning of time, you can't have children. Even women artists say you can't have children and actually be an artist. So I think it enriches it. I think it can enrich it. I bring my girls with me. They were here last night. I bring them with me to everywhere we go. I want them to see. I want them to know that they can accomplish or be anything they want to be without it. So just don't accept the margin.
Yeah.
Take Shania.
I don't want to interrupt, but can we walk down?
Let's do.
Okay.
So I referenced the gentleman, like 2 gentlemen. Right here, 2 pi r divided by t. It's a physics formula about circumference of the spin. I used men because I was examining the spin of power. and also the loss of control. This painting for me represents Alzheimer's and dementia and aging, and I painted it of a man struggling and grappling to regain control. It's about a loss of power and trying to reach it. It has 3 sets of shadows painted different colors. Each shadow represents a different time in life, the past, present, and the future. I had a really interesting time thinking about like what was the real shadow and what was the future. It kind of goes from the past is much brighter and the current to the present becomes very dark. Should I go now? I'm just going in order of how them happening. So this is Procession of 172 Souls. This is the first work when I started to take the figures and divide them by themselves. There are 10 people in this painting, 20 hands. I can't tell you how many feet and toes. My math is not that good. This painting is about the Oklahoma City bombing. It's a very personal issue for me. It's not my first time I've painted it. I keep painting this and revisiting it because I really want to capture the essence. Like I think about the environment and the atmosphere and the ether as mass souls like exit this world and what beauty could come out of that horrendous tragedy. There weren't 172 people killed in that bombing. I add people every time I paint it for people who are significant or important to me, and I memorialize their life along with the procession. The shadows exist here. They're little restful spaces. They're puddles down here somewhere in the darkness. I tried to divide this figure upon figure in the geometrically to actually so you can kind of see resurrection, like you see the dark to light, to show the release.
What was the title of that one again?
Huh?
What was the title of that one?
Procession of 172 Souls.
Oh, okay.
This painting was really interesting. I wanted to paint the beauty of a woman from the inside out. So it's La Femme, L'Ame de la Femme, means soul of a woman, basically. And I started just layering all of these women into this piece, and it became kind of it looks like a flower. It just really actually blossomed on its own. It wasn't necessarily my intent. That kind of goes also from the richness of color to the lighter extremities. This was an immediate response to the bombing, the terrorist attack in Paris last November. It's called Brinde de Nostalgie. Basically means with a touch, it will give a bit of nostalgia to Paris. The pictures actually divided the figures, dividing themselves, as well as is structurally divided to mimic the Eiffel Tower. So you can kind of start to see that this swimmingness of sadness and despair is kind of the bottom part, and we use the elevation to show the beauty or the remembrance of beauty in Paris.
I noticed there's a very saturated red in that one. Is that intentional or did that just happen?
It was intentional. Most of my work, I know it and work on it for a long time in my head before I produce it. I typically work on the color scheme, composition. It can evolve a bit over time, and then when I sit down and I draw it, I draw it straight on canvas. I don't sketch before I do it. I knew I wanted to use the red. I kind of was, kind of just color somatic for what I was thinking of Paris and France. And then you can see it becomes a color I use again, and I will. It's really in the next one, so they always kind of progress. I wanted the nostalgia to rise up, and I wanted us to reflect on the beauty that is in Paris and the French society and pay homage to that. So I kind of had this whirling kind of despair, and then as you see the evolution and the lifting up, I reference it with some, these are like Degas ballerinas that rise up, and you can see their figures kind of dancing up out of the darkness, and included some of the almond blossoms that Van Gogh painted for his godchild and nephew, Vincent, that hung in his nursery in Paris. So I really couldn't, I had a little French flag too. Kind of very, a little symbolic in this one. This is a piece I specifically did thinking about Oklahoma, for Oklahoma. It's called Broken Trees. Kind of wanted to look at the land run, the 4 land runs that settled the state of Oklahoma. Being a kid that grew up here in Oklahoma City, we used to put on our little prairie dresses. I could say this to this crowd. And we'd dress up, take our little wagons, we'd go out and stake our land. So, I mean, it's more
Did you cheat or did you work each other? Were you a Sooner?
I didn't let us do it. Elementary school, they didn't let us cheat. I think we had this all start up. We did it every year.
It was not historically accurate.
It wasn't.
It was idealized.
So I wanted to kind of look at it, just kind of referencing the current state of the world. And we're in a place, I believe this painting is very historic, but I also believe it's very current, where we are looking at countries that are closing their borders. And we're looking at our own country wanting to build walls. And for me, it was looking back and saying, well, who were the original immigrants and who were the refugees? So this painting contains 4 people and 6 horses. The 6 horses are charging, and they represent the taking. It has a deity who is the Great Spirit. She comes out here. We have a refugee. She looks back at the charge. You can see these are her arms, her belly, her legs come down in here, and she's the one running. We have a witness who actually, she kind of levitates here with one hand raised and one hand to the side. And down here we have the seeker of justice, the demonstrator. And he's right here, and his hand's pointed up, and he's got a fist on this side. He's announcing the injustice of the situation. There's a horse here, a horse here. There's one here that feeds into these people, and then there are 3, 4 that charge across the bottom.
So you sketched directly on the canvas?
I do a drawing right on